man.
What's up?
Hey, dude, give me a beer.
We're fucking out of beer.
What do you mean we're out?
Fucking out.
We can't be fucking out. I just bought beer.
I know, we fucking drank it all.
Ah, fuck. Are you serious?
Yeah?
What the fuck, man?
I know, bro.
Ah, fuck.
Oh, WTF, there's no motherfucking beer left. I said WTF.
What's up, beer nerds? Final Gravity back. Plato number 2, season 3, block 1. A beer podcast about craft beer, life, friends, and existing on planet Earth. Yeah, buddy. Here we go again.
How's it going, everybody? Viking Peach is here, doing his thing, drinking his beer.
What's up, y'all? I'm back.
Oh, yeah. Everybody's here again.
We didn't die.
Nobody's dead. I mean, things aren't great for 2/3 of us, but we're all living and breathing in 6 feet up instead of 6 feet under. So
We got beer.
we got
beer. We got damn good beer.
friends. We got all the things. We're happy about this. So, in contrast to last week's episode, if you've listened, watched, or caught up on last week's episode, we did a Gimmick beer tasting, and we had some bangers. We definitely had some.
You guys did.
Well, I mean bangers in the sense of like adjunct heavy dumpster fires.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I don't need to drink any more 11.8% super adjunct stouts. That was a record.
You know, I revisited the beer that I had on last time, and it still tasted like cough drops to me.
Yeah.
I was still
I
disappointed.
will tell you that as much as I enjoyed the beers I had last week, I did not finish them after the show. I just, nope. I was like, I can't drink all of this heavy. First of all, it's getting hot out, and I can't do the dark, heavy beers in the summertime. Living in an attic, it's just fucking hot up here. Oh, Christy. So this week, in contrast to that, we are going to talk about, I know we've talked about this in the past before, how much we all enjoy traditional Bavarian, Belgian, and German style beers, Czech beers, even some
Just
Italian
kind of the
beers.
classics. And
Yeah, the classics. I know, like I said, I know we've talked about this before on episodes in the past, but today we're going to talk a little bit more about how how the beer world transitioned from these nice, clean, crispy, traditional style beers kind of got taken over by all of the gimmicks and hazies and New Englands and West Coasts and pastry stouts and adjunct heavy, put cinnamon sticks and donuts in your beer. I mean, cinnamon's good in some beers, but again, CJ, I see you doing over there.
I mean, again, I think it's always good to go back to I think it's super cool to be inspired and use all kinds of different unique ingredients in your beer. I think, I think we've all drank some dumpster fires before too. And there's, I think when you get done reading like the 4th or 5th descriptor on an ale, if you are a beer lover and enjoy, your eyes start to kind of roll back in your head in the not good way, where it's just like, oh, great. Like, we just didn't stop. We didn't stop at tangerine, marshmallow, blue pomegranate seed. We didn't stop. We just kept going.
Cactus,
raspberry,
but I mean,
huckleberry.
I'm not going to say again. I love brewing with adjuncts of any kind, or spices of any kind. I think what we're going after is that we definitely, in the modern beer market, we don't see such a desire anymore for a lot of traditional styles. They just don't translate to where the modern craft beer market is going for a lot of people. And so, yeah, we have, we've done this before too, but you have the IPA, right? And then you had the white IPA, the red IPA, the brown IPA, the black IPA. Then you had the brewed IPA. Then you had the East Coast IPA. Now you have the juicy, the hazy, and
you've got the coffee IPAs.
And it's just like, okay.
It's just a never-ending fucking...
At what point in time do we say it's no longer an IPA? It's not. And so I think that's happened. It's happened with that style, but like when you look at styles like a true Hefeweizen, or when you look at styles like a Grisette, or things like that that you almost never hear unless you're in the nerdiest of cool breweries.
A classic Pilsen, because
yeah, and the thing is like with all these different versions of these modern things that are coming out. I added lactose to mine. I added 6 different kinds of oats. Right? When you have a style like Pilsner, you don't get to do that to it. Right? Like, I mean, you can try, but anyone who's worth their salt will laugh you off the face of the earth when you make a mango milkshake Pilsner. Righteously go fuck yourself. And so some of those styles are falling to the wayside because they're not supposed to be manipulated in those ways. They're not supposed to be toyed with. They're supposed to be appreciated. And the flavors are derived from the craft and the technique that's actually used, not like, oh shit, I found our blueberry puree in the back. Let's dump that in, right? So you know, again, American craft beer, just like American craft anything, goes through these evolutions of trying to be bigger, better, stronger, more intense than everybody else. And a lot of what gets lost during that is the nuanced stuff, the stuff that really just requires deft and gentle hand. You know, Americans don't appreciate that. Look at anything, right? Like, and I'm, you know, not going to say I haven't enjoyed them from time to time, but we are the culture that invented the buffalo chicken pizza, right? Like we are that culture, you know, and take that to Italy.
Conversation yesterday about how like America literally has no like traditional cuisine except for barbecue, and that technically came from West Africa too.
We are really good borrowers, right? And we're really good. Like, well, this is how I'm going to make this better.
Well,
you
but
know?
once we borrow it, we don't really stop to think, you know, yes, we can, but should we, right? Like,
somebody
do you
borrowing
need
your drill and then like giving it back to you without the battery? Or or it's missing like the.
Do you need to make a mac and cheese nacho pizza, right? Like, I know you can, but do you need to, right?
Honestly,
like, do you need to top a
right
pizza with nachos and then mac and cheese on top? Like, yeah, I mean, it actually it's a cheesy carbohydrate pile of fucking heart attack. Which it would be delicious for sure, but it's like, is it necessary, right? Like in Italy, like where pizza from, you know, they're not doing that with pizza. They're like, oh yeah, here's a flatbread with like some oils and some meat.
Yesterday too is that American pizza isn't even close to traditional Italian pizza.
We're just like, here's some bread and let's put everything on it.
Right. And again, jumping back to beer, like that's at that point in time, if that's what you want to make, dope. But just don't call it that thing anymore, because it's not. Yeah. You've taken it so far away, and every time, in my opinion, and maybe this is a little preachy, maybe this is a little waxing poetic, but every time, in my opinion, when you do that, you actually remove a piece of that culture permanently from the lexicon, because you're uneducating people about what it is. You know, every time that we put something else under the fold of IPA, we move farther and farther and farther and farther away from what IPA is now. And that's true for any beer style or whatnot, but it's not to say we can't develop new things, but develop them with the context and develop them with an education that there's still people practicing these very tried and true techniques to make wonderful beers that are that are not replicable if you're not doing it.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely, the highest
level. You can't call it that if you're not following the techniques and procedures to be able to call it that.
Sure, and of course, like the co-argument, I'll even play my own devil's advocate. The naysayers would say, well, if all we're going to do is call things that IPA are shipped around the Horn of Africa, so like then we can't call anything IPA. And it's like, no, I understand that the styles will evolve and change. I understand the world will change, but again, there has to come a point when it's like, okay, I've jammed so much shit in this that it is stop calling it that. Call it anything else. Make it a fucking name.
If you look at the evolution of humans, and you know, this is speaking as someone who believes in evolution. So if you are a creationist, just tune out the next, 2 minutes of what I'm about to say. But if you look at evolution, right, there's a certain point, I don't know all the classifications, but there's a certain point where we went from Homo erectus to Homo sapien, right? Like there's a certain point where things change enough that you need a new name for it, right?
Yeah.
It's called
Become-
evolution. It's called life. You know.
Yeah,
Well, it's
there's a
like-
certain point where we're not gorillas anymore, and like there's a cutoff point where you're like, this is different enough that we should give it a new name. Oh, look at these skeletons. Well, these are different enough that we should give them a new name.
It kind of this is a deep nerdy, well, maybe not deep, but it's definitely a nerdy movie reference. You guys remember Jurassic Park, the original Jurassic Park, right?
Oh yeah,
When they're sitting at the first dinner table and it's Ian Malcolm,
Yeah.
and he's like, you read what other people, he's like, what you don't get is that you didn't have to work for it. You read what other people have did, then you took it and you borrowed it and you packaged it and you sold it and you fucking sold it. You know, and like
Yeah.
I won't get that quote entirely right, but he's just like,
No, but he puts you put everything in a nice, neat little package, and you
Yeah,
slap
yeah.
a fucking label on it,
exactly.
and you
And
ship
it's
it
out.
off.
And
Yeah.
that is what Americans do. And I can speak through food, wine, and beer. That's what Americans do with all kinds of craft cultures.
oh
Now,
god,
let
yeah.
me just preface this and say that we don't hate America.
Well,
We don't hate living in it. Damn it! There's nothing I can say. We don't hate America.
There are certain things
all I got.
that I very much appreciate about this country. I appreciate the blessing of having been born in a place that is as powerful and free as it is, and you know, it has a lot of fucking issues. America has a lot of issues. I just find it very interesting and kind of comedic watching the way that we don't really have a lot of, I mean, subsects of America have culture, right? Whitefish, Montana has its own culture. Bend has its own culture. The South has its own culture, but we don't have a lot of these huge cultural traditions across the country as a whole. The things that we do have across the country as a whole, we basically like stole, added cheese to it, and shipped it out the fucking door.
Oh, I was going to say something like racism, but I get that's
Well, yeah, we put some of that in there
that's not what
too.
we're here to talk about. That's not what we're here to talk about. But CJ, I mean, we talked about this yesterday too. Like, if you're gonna make an IPA or a pale ale in Montana or in Florida or in South Carolina or Texas or California, well, California doesn't really count. I mean, it counts, but like I'm saying, it's like instead of calling it a New England IPA or a West Coast IPA, call it a Montana IPA, call it a Texas IPA, call it a Florida IPA, do something different with it. But I thought a little bit about this afterwards, is that the fact that it doesn't have like the go-to moniker of West Coast or any IPA, people are going to be like, "What's that?" And they're not going to associate it with what the style that you're trying to cultivate, or
Not yet, but it has to
Sure.
start somewhere.
it's got to start somewhere for sure.
yeah, I mean, you know, again, and I don't want to just bang on IPAs all night, because obviously we want to talk about some other things that are out there that a lot of people maybe are missing out on. But in that reference point, right? Like, it is okay to have subcategories of things. It is okay to create brands. It's okay to create concepts and labels and things like that. But it cannot come without an education of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Right. Otherwise, we're just going to break everything off into the most absurd minutia, but it all still falls under this umbrella, right? And it's super confusing for people. Like, you know, yeah, I don't know. Just, I mean, like I do want to talk about other unique styles, but just to finish up, like as someone who got my start drinking beer with West Coast IPAs, right? It is like so far from home to see lactose driven sweet beers being called IPA.
Mhm.
Or to see anyone make something like you know, this is something for me that I got from one of my former head brewers at Culmination Brewing, Josh, in Portland, Oregon. Was one day I was really excited about a concept where I'd been making a lot of tepache at home, which is Mexican pineapple wine, street wine. Just a very basic fruit ferment, you know, and you can make like this little 4% spritzy soda, pineapple soda with alcohol, and it's fucking awesome. It's great. And I really thought that those flavors could be cool in a Kolsch style platform. And so, you know, being the young, kind of very fresh out of home brewing that I was, I went to my head brewer Conrad, and I was like, what if we did a tepache Kolsch? And he literally, like, we were driving, we were actually driving to Stammtisch, which is a German beer bar in Portland, that does it by the book, right? And
Yeah.
he literally turned around and he goes, fuck no. And I didn't quite understand like what he was saying. And I was like, well, dude, pineapple and this bright, light, spritzy, and he's like, I'm not arguing that the flavors wouldn't be right, but we ain't gonna call it a fucking Kolsch. And this is a guy who had a pretty good background in lagers and in very classic German and Bavarian style beers. And it didn't really resonate with me for quite some time what that meant until I worked with some people that profoundly made some very, very good lagers or some of those deeper cuts of European continental European style beers. And again, there's just if I would have said, let's make it Tepache lager, right? Fuck yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
But you can't call it a Tepache Pilsner.
Yeah, exactly. There's just, but again, as we talk about maybe why some of those styles are either falling out of fashion or not hitting young craft drinkers anymore, it's because of those things. It's because either we've miseducated them as to what that means, or because those styles do have such a lineage and a heritage that you just can't subset that stuff. You can't, no one's fuck whatever brewer is going to make a milkshake Pilsner. I will come to your brewery and I will take an upper decker in one of your bathrooms because it's fuck you, but that again, that's hard for young people being introduced to craft brewing when they
just get excited about these new things and what's the next venue? Yeah.
When you walk into a brewery and you see 9 different kinds of hazy IPAs, and then you see 4 different kinds of pastry imperial stouts, and then you see one lone Kolsch, what do you think they sell most of? Right. Because,
to be honest,
the
if I walk into a beer
evolving.
menu like that, I probably wouldn't even drink the Kolsch to begin with.
Well, one of my favorite, just to talk about bringing back true traditional, very, very traditional styles of brewing and everything. Honestly, probably my favorite brewery in Central Oregon right now, and what I'm drinking on tonight, in fact, Porter's Brewing out of Redmond, Oregon. They actually just opened up a Bend location, which just got closed down again because fucking stupid restrictions. But so Devin is the head brewer there. Really dope dude. And he only makes true traditional cask ales.
I was hoping you were going to talk about this story.
Yep. So I brought in 2 beers from them tonight. I'm actually drinking his Irish Red Ale right now, and then I have his extra special bitter to follow that up with right now. I'm drinking a Porter Brewing Company Irish Red Ale. It's called the Irish Redman. And there's not a whole lot I can say about it besides, there's a lot I could say about it. It's fucking delicious, but it is done truly the traditional way. He doesn't have any forced carbonation, bottle conditioned and cask conditioned ales only. All their taps are true pulled casks.
Hold up that label for us a little closer, Josh.
Yeah, that looks like.
That's a super clean, beautiful label too.
Just
I love
super
that.
simple.
Like
they
that
do.
bottle
They
too.
serve all their beers at about 51 degrees in the pub. It's you walk into the pub that they opened downtown Bend, and it feels like something that I would have walked into on a side street in Edinburgh.
Tight.
It's just everything about it. It's classic. It's traditional. So it's not like some crazy out there, here's all this insane flavor red ale, right? It's a red ale. It's not overly carbonated. And he doesn't make anything super strong. Like his porter that he has on tap is a 4.6%, right? Like the original style porter. I think the heaviest thing he has on tap. What's that?
What's the ABV on that red ale?
This red ale sits at a 5.8. I think the heaviest thing he has on tap might be a 6. They have one IPA on right now that they did in collaboration with Bend Brewing Company, but even that one, it's still a cask IPA. It doesn't have those overly hopped flavors. It doesn't have all this craziness to it. It is, you get a little bit of hoppiness and malt back and a true old school traditional British style IPA.
Oh.
That's all this guy does. And so then the next one I have following the red ale is his infamous ESB extra special bitter, which is my favorite beer that they make.
I love a good ESB. And CJ, I'm always mad when you pull the ESB off your menu.
Yeah, I was telling Thomas about this brewery the other day leading up to this episode. And I mean, there's all these breweries out there. Like you said, you walk in and you see all these different IPAs and things on the menu. And that's great. That's fine. But I think it's so nice and refreshing to walk into a brewery where they don't even have a single normal tap anyways. It's all cask. It's all very old school. And I've talked to the head brewer and owner, Devin, quite a bit. Very nice dude. And he just does it because he loves it and it's not around here, right? This is supposedly a beer mecca of the world and all you can find is fucking IPAs around Bend. And so he just didn't want to do that. And so he has, I think, 7 taps at the Bend location. I think he has a couple more out at their original Redmond location. But, you know, he's got an ESB, he's got a red ale, he's got a Scottish ale, which is fucking amazing. He's got, you know, that one IPA collaboration, but that'll go away when it's out. He's got a really nice blonde ale that is just super light and easy drinking. You know, he's just got like one of each of the kind of main points of true traditional, like this is beer.
Yeah.
And so you walk in and it's funny because I've sat down there for hours over the last week before they had to shut down again, just to give them my love and support. And, you know, I'm sitting there and this is Ben. People hear about a new brewery in town or a new tap room in town. They go in. And people are coming up and asking like, oh, what IPAs do you have? What this do you have? What that do you have? And the people there are so great and they're really good at educating them and being like, well, this is all very traditional European beer. This is what we have. This isn't what you're used to, but let me pour you something that I think you'll like. Right.
Absolutely. And it's important.
It's just refreshing, man. I love it.
And it's important to note that, and I've lived in that scene too, that obviously there are certain areas like Oregon and certainly Portland that can have those very specialized breweries that do those very neat things that are falling out of fashion that aren't done anywhere. I wish that every, we right now, like if that brewery had opened up in the Flathead Valley, it would not succeed. No. And that's not because it wouldn't be good beer. It's just because there's just not room yet for that specialization. However,
same with even Monkless or a handful of other breweries out here. Yeah.
But I really would encourage any small brewery, any small brewer anywhere to pick something that you do aside from what has become the American trends. A humble brag, I think that Backslip Brewing right now, we put a lot of time and pride into Belgian ales and into Franco-Belgian ales, so Saisons as well. That's definitely where my love is. And so we focus on that, right? We don't try and do a million different things and do them all mediocre. We make damn good IPAs, in my opinion. We make damn good ales, American ales across the board. And then we really put a lot of passion into wild beers and farmhouse beers. That's just something that we're really stoked on. Right down the road, we do have a brewery that'll knock out a decent pale ale and IPA, but really puts a lot of time into lagers. I just and that's just shamelessly plugging another Flathead, but this goes out to any breweries anywhere. Is like, I think that's something we have to do to keep our legitimacy in this craft, and is to commit yourself to trying to keep one region or style or technique alive, right? Yeah. Maybe you're the crazy person that's like, hey, we're going to be that brewery that does a great hazy IPA, and then we party guile everything. Cool, do that. You know what I mean? What a fantastic example is? Firestone Walker. Firestone Walker keeps the Burton-on-Trent system alive. They actually age and then blend back in a portion of old beer into several of their beers to create that old school stock style ale. Firestone Walker DBA is done this way still to this day, if I'm not mistaken. So right there, they decided that this was a technique, right? Or, something we've mentioned before, certain lager brewers still do all the rests, right? They still do a step mash. Like, we have all these techniques to not do it, but they're keeping that tradition alive. So I would hope that everyone out there who's really passionate, like, something I wish we had more out here, Thomas, in the Flathead Valley, is I wish we had some English style ales. I wish people did more of that.
I do too.
As a beer,
you guys should just come visit Ben and come drink at the cellar with me.
I'd be okay with that. I think we're planning a Ben trip soon.
Sweet.
The world's just still on fire out there, so I'm waiting for that to calm down before we do that.
My world's on fire. How about yours? That's the way I like it, because I never get bored.
Vacations already planned for this year. I don't know if I can squeeze in a third, especially if I go back to work next month.
Well, I'll tell you what. If I make it out to Montana soon, I'll bring a couple porter beers for you.
I'd be really excited to drink some cask ale. T, what are you drinking?
Stone, actually. I don't know if this is a new release or if it's a re-release, but they're Buena Vesa, their salt and lime lager.
Oh yes. No, that's a re-release, but I've had that before. Yeah. New labels though.
Yeah, candy skull style on it. It's exactly what it says it is, man. It's 4.5 or 4.7%. Lager with salt and lime added, and everything.
You know what they didn't do? They didn't call it Pilsner. Good fucking job, Stone.
Good on him.
Fucking job.
But it's really good. It's really clean. It's like having a really well done Corona with the salt and lime already in it. Because Corona.
I thought you don't like putting lime in your Coronas.
I don't put fruit in my beer.
You just let the brewers do it for you.
I, on occasion, will have a Negra Modelo with lime. I think it's fucking fantastic.
I put fruit in beer very frequently. We all know I'm the black sheep in this little podcast family, though.
And the other beer that I have is the Four Hands American Pilsner, Citywide.
Oh, that should be a fun one.
Ooh.
It's been a long time since I've had that, but that should be a fun one.
Yeah, it's a fun looking can too.
Ooh, that is cool branding. Dope.
Yeah.
And is that in a 16? Is that in a pounder?
Powder cans.
Fuck yeah. For Pilsner? What's the ABV?
5.5.
Oh. Well, I'm sure it's going to be delicious. I was kind of hoping for it to be like 5.1, but
Yep,
that's just how I like my lagers.
it's true. I can't wait to get into this as soon as I finish this stone. I do have two others. And by the way, big shout out to my friend Teresa, who was in town from St. Louis over the weekend, or not over the weekend, but middle of last week, that brought all these beers to me except for the stone. I much appreciate you bringing out the beers that I'll drink. She did throw a Bud Select into the mix because that's what she drinks, and I did drink it just to appease her. It's terrible.
We don't have to talk about that.
Nope.
We don't
It's
have to talk
awful.
about it.
It's fucking awful.
But thank you, thank you, Teresa, for bringing us.
Thank you,
all
Mother
these beers.
Teresa. I mean, Teresa. DJ, what you got going on?
I'm actually doing my due diligence at my own brewery right now and trying to cash out a keg that I want to see gone. So I'm drinking a little bit of a single hop IPA, nonetheless, that we got.
Are you trying to finish off the Triumph? You trying to finish off that Triumph?
I see why you're talking about IPAs so much today.
Well, I mean, all right, to be fair, when you go and pick out a beer on
To
any
be
craft beer
fair.
shelf now, you got to
To be
dig through
fair.
15 different IPAs,
You do.
And I do actually, I have some the Firestone Walker just dropped their new Luponic Distortion series, so I've got a little bit of that to back it up. But
Although
right now,
I was in the other day,
Nope.
CJ, by the way, and someone also noticed your affinity for Belgian beers when I came in for lunch the other day. Dude was like,
good.
there's a lot of Belgian beers on here. I'm like, yeah, because he's the only one in the fucking valley doing it, and good for him. He loves his table
Also,
beers.
Just a side note to point out, I just cracked the ESB and poured it into glass, but the bottles are a little bigger than my glass. So drinking the last little bit of it out of the bottle,
And
But
you,
she had some-
like there's
With the swirl
yeast
from the
in the
bottom?
bottom, right?
Yeah.
Like you're drinking,
Yeah.
like, I mean, I love that coming out of an actual brewery instead of just like your homebrew stuff. It kind of feels right, man. I love that. I love porter.
That's cool. I'm excited about this brewery, and I want to.
I'm gonna Venmo you.
No, hey, shit.
So-
If Josh, if Porter Brewing's listening and they want to sling us a few beers, we'll do a tasting, all Porter Brewing, dude.
I could
You can
tag them in
just
a thing.
Ship
They
those
know
beers
me.
up here, dude.
They actually follow like all my shit now. I
would-
told them I was drinking them for the podcast.
You know what? Actually,
tonight.
even better, dude, is like tell them that tell them what I'll buy a set of bottles for Porter.
Oh yeah, hell yeah, dude.
Help keep them around, and then
Oh, yeah.
and then send them up here, and we'll do it. Let's do an all Porter episode for them.
We'll send you. We'll Venmo you some cash, and you
Yeah.
can kick them out to us, and then we can actually sit down. Maybe block 2. We'll sit down and do a porter tasting because we still have like a month or so. Like
Yeah.
Yeah, we can iron out those details, but
How
yeah,
about
hit them
it?
up.
Yeah.
See if we can do a thing.
Hell yeah.
Anyway, getting back to the beers. Quick humble brag. The beer I am drinking is a single hop IPA. Thank you, Maddie Jones from Big Sky Orchards and Hop Farms. Appreciate
That's the other
you.
cool thing about what you're doing is that 90% of your ingredients are locally sourced right here in Montana.
Not 90% is high, but we're trying. We are using
I'm not talking about yeast, just grist. And
right. But I mean, like 60 to 70% of our barley right now coming from Montana. I would say maybe hops are tough because they're so competitive. Again, going back to the death of a lot of classic styles is because we have And any excited homebrewers out there, you'll know now we have Galaxy, we have Strata, we have Rakau, Riwaka, Motueka, right? Nelson Sabi. Like we have all these things that are really, they're like breeders right now get paid more money to gear hops toward IPA.
Yeah, to crossbreed and make plants.
There's not too many people out there super excited when someone's like, I need you to make us a new noble hop, you know? So, but in the hop game, I'd say right now, we were very fortunate to make this connection. We brought in about 120 some pounds worth of local hops last year, and I'm hoping to double that this year. Because I really, again, going back to it, we talk about East Coast, West Coast, you know, the idea of craft brewing to me is being so unique to your area that people have to come to see you and see what you're doing and see the region you surround yourself in. So yeah, and again, that goes back to, gosh, again, small breweries, like, embrace classic styles. You know, I'd be so pumped if we took a road trip and we walked into a pub and someone had a Gottslandricon style, right? I'd be like,
yeah, that'd be so cool. I wouldn't leave that brewery. We'd be sleeping in our cars.
What I want. Just keep serving it up.
Yeah. So, yep. Well, here's an interesting question. Here's an interesting question that I was thinking about when we were talking.
I'm working on Instagram.
Oh, sorry,
Josh and Thomas. If there was, what is? How do I phrase this question? What is the historical style that, right? If there wasn't good, like, what is the historical style you want to see come back in some way, shape, or form the most? Like for you, what and I'll just go ahead, like I'll start the conversation and say that right now for me, like based on what I can get and the quality of what I can get, and also based on what I do and what I don't do, I would love to see milds, British milds and bitters come back in a real way. They're very unassuming beers. Yep, I know, and that's why. They're just
so good.
They're the original pub beer. They're just the original, like, I just want a fucking pint. And when they're made well, they're very unique. They're very different tasting than their down the line evolutionaries like the American Pale Ale, which I love, and the American IPA, which I love, and the British IPA. They're just kind of this earthy, woody, fun, light beer to drink. And so for me, I would say right now today, like if somebody in the town was doing a British mild, I'd be pumped, right? Like 4% British mild is what I want. What about you guys?
Thomas?
Mine's really like a two-part answer. I would really like to see like traditional sours start to come back around, like Flanders, like true to style, like Flanders Reds and stuff like that come back around, which kind of in the same realm that you're talking about with those English bitters and stuff. But I would also love to see more people branch out and do things with like Kolsch's and Czech pills, you know, from the western side of Germany and Belgium and stuff like that. There's just something about how clean and easy drinking those beers are and they're just packed with flavor for the small amount of ingredients that you put into making these nice clean beers. They're just packed with flavor. And I think a lot of people miss that when they see a straw yellow, super, like, you could like start a fire through this beer if you held it up in the sun the right way. You know what I mean? Like, they're just so clean and clear that everyone just immediately associates them with like Bud Light, Corona, and like that, because they see it and they're just like, oh, there's no haze to it, or there's no cloudiness to it. It must not have any flavor. Nah, bro, you wrong. You hard wrong.
Hard wrong.
Well, and let's give a humble brag out to both a friend of the show and a really great brewer in the Flat Valley. Graham Hart is making some beers that are about as stylistically close to Flanders style ales right now as anybody. I'm definitely trying to nip at those coattails a little bit, but he's been working with his barrel program a long time, so I don't want to pass up not giving out a shout to Bonsai Brewing Company because
Love those.
again, is it 150% true to style? No, but is it incredibly respectful of the style?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And
Dude
it
does an
really-
amazing job.
Really holds up. They're really complex beers. He's been aging beers in barrels, I think, longer than anybody out here. And he's
He
got
does a lot of like wild fermentation. Like,
Yep. He does spontaneous inoculation. We at Backslope we operate a souring program, but we do not do spontaneous inoculation. What I miss?
no,
It's just there's a lot of innuendo in that phrase.
Yeah.
Spontaneous inoculation.
Inoculation.
Yep. I was like, you said inoculate.
I was inoculated last night. No, but shout out anyway.
Can't you go to jail for spontaneous inoculation? Just saying.
Depends on the circumstance, but yes.
Circumstance. Hey, you said circum.
Ask Jim Jordan from Ohio State. He fucking knows what I'm talking about.
Oh, cultural references all the way around.
All the way around.
All right. No, if I had
Josh.
to see a style come back, and I might sound like a broken record tonight. I'm gonna agree with CJ though, especially like just on the bitters and just that general style of brewing in particular, but more than one style of beer, a style of service for me. I fell in love with cask beers back in 3 years ago before I moved to Montana. Went out to Scotland for about a month, a little shy of a month. Before that, my only real exposure to cask ales and any kind of a casked beer was at Deschutes Brewing. They usually keep 2 on tap. They do a good job with it, but it's very non-traditional. They're doing like a lot of their normal beers, but then cask aging them and serving them. And so it's not quite true to traditional styles of beer that is generally associated with that. And then when I was out in Scotland with my brother, almost every fucking bar had at least 1 or 2 cask beers. It wasn't just like one brewery in one town. It was like all of them had a couple of them. So I started tasting those a lot more, and really like fell in love with the bitters, the extra special bitters, and just drinking like the more traditional beers, because a lot of the guys doing it out there did it in that traditional style. They weren't like making these super hoppy IPAs and then putting into a cask and then pouring it like that. Like they were making beers the way that their families had made them for generations, right?
Yeah.
And like that, because I mean, it's so old and traditional out there. So I fell in love with it, and then I came back here and whoop, can't find that anymore. And then my brother, told me about porter when I was in Montana, because he found them out in Redmond, and I just hadn't even made the trip up to Redmond to check them out for the entire year that I've been back. And then they opened their Bend location, and like this is something for me, like it's my favorite way to drink a beer, like that a little bit warmer. You're kind of in the pub feeling like that's where this all started. That's where this all came from, was dudes in Europe sitting in those like kind of dark, dingy pubs, drinking their cask beers and talking with their friends after a long day at work. And it's just something that I absolutely love. I love the simplicity yet, depth of the flavors in it. Like you can get a lot out of one of those beers, but it's just very simple the way that they're made, especially like the bitters and the ESBs. I fucking love those beers, and I'm so happy that I have a place I can go and have that here now. And I wish more people could across.
It's cool.
United
Again,
States, right? Like,
it's such a specialized thing. It makes me want to, and maybe we'll see. Maybe we'll see. I can't make any promises right now. The world's still burning outside, but maybe in 6 to 8 months, I'd even take a shot at Backslope, but just doing a run of like English pub ales off the nitro or something like that, just to see what happens. But it's hard to see any kind of specialized beer out there. Going back to that previous reference too, and we talk about these styles, why they're not here, right? It goes right back to Jurassic Park, right? Beer right now is so modern and so globalized and so accessible, just like everything else, that when you see this humble thing, you're like, oh, that's not that impressive. Right. In the same way that's like, oh, yeah, you genetically modified dinosaurs. Why would I ever go back and look at real dinosaurs then? We have genetically modified ones now. And
that's a really good point.
I don't know why I got stuck on Jurassic Park, but I was just thinking about that.
It's a great
As,
reference.
as
You watch it recently, or
really,
Josh was-
it's a really
no,
good analogy.
actually, I do need to rewatch it. The honestly, number one is amazing, but like they make mention of that in the movie too, where it's like, well, now that you've changed it, how will we ever actually understand what the real thing is, or
Yeah,
what the
right.
real thing would do, right? And now again, the alternate argument is, well, what do you don't want change? No, of course, I always want to see new beers. I always want to see new creativity. I always want to see what people are doing. And you know what? I've enjoyed some dumpster fire beers from time to time. I've hated most of them, but I've enjoyed a couple of them. Some
There's
of
a
them are
few.
done really well.
There's definitely a few.
But yeah, that's where we're seeing loss in the beer community right now, is that there's not enough people making enough to stabilize themselves and say, we're going to be passionate about goose.
It's
you know,
because
we're going to be passionate
that's another
about
good style.
goza, or we're going to be passionate about, excuse me, I'm going to go into the G's right now. We're going to be passionate about Gruit. You know,
I
am Gruit.
I'm Grit.
I
We
am-
are Grit. You're
in,
Grit.
in today's modern world, when
I
you
am
have
Steve Rogers.
when you have the plethora of hops that you have, it doesn't always sound so sexy to the drinker, and it doesn't always sound so sexy to the brewer to be like, "Hey, make a light tart beer with no hops," and you're just like, "Wait, what? You,
Okay.
I mean,
Challenge
you
accepted.
you don't want me to put just a little Citra in there? You don't want me to put just a little Mosaic in there?
No,
You
sir.
know." But for a small sect of us brewers and craft beer enthusiasts, we can't wait to go to a place where someone's like, "Yep, this is what I made." You know, this is our Roush beer. You know, and it's like, "Oh shit, really?" It's like, "Yeah, we house smoked the malt." It's like, oh, I cannot fucking wait to drink this
Yo,
thing.
fucking put
You
that
know?
in my mouth now. And yes, that is how Grandma died.
But you're going to be sitting next to most likely that
The
person, the brewer,
motherfucker.
who's going to go be like, "Well, what's your hazy?" You know, and again, this is not disrespecting the hazy lovers, but
Trust me.
craft beer is standardizing right now, which is kind of scary to me, and it's overly focused on a few styles, and there's just not enough push for us to be taking on these higher techniques. And that's why I'm very glad, T, that you're out there. We've got a homebrew friend of the show, Mark, that's out there, that are actually trying to make, you know, more unique styles and not just pushing hard on the hop train. Again, nothing wrong with making IPAs. I honestly make about 2 of them a month.
It keeps the lights on, man.
But it keeps the lights on.
That's
But
kinda what
yeah,
I was gonna say is that's what it's turned into. It's turned into a marketing campaign over like a beer campaign. Like style, it's all about like the marketing of it. So like whatever
we still have to make what sells. Brewer, there's
Yeah.
I don't
You still
see
got to
many
make
brewers,
money.
you know.
You
Yep.
can't run a business and not make money unless you're
Yeah.
me running
But-
Enjoy every day. But that wasn't part of the plan anyways. So
If other small brewers are out there and listening to this too, again, going back to it, you can still make your IPAs and you can still make your profit, and then you can focus on just one unique thing that we used to see all the time. Again, that unique thing could just be always having a great Pilsner, or a great Italian lager. That unique thing could be
Yeah.
bringing back the true Bavarian Hefeweizen. That unique thing could be Berliner Weisse. I don't care. Just it could be English.
Do
ales,
what
it
you
could
have
be-
to do so you can do what you want to do, right? Brew
Yep,
those IPAs to pay the bills so then you can play with everything else.
Yeah. Is there what is a style that either one of you have either read about or heard about that have never seen but always wanted to? That's another deep cut question. I got an old homebrew book in front of me, and I know I dropped Gott's Landrica before. That would be mine. Like, if I remember right, it's a particular type of smoked wheat beer, if I'm not mistaken. But I've never seen it. I've only read about it, and it might be smoked wheat or it might be smoked rye. I don't remember, but it's a very peculiar Northern German beer. Never seen it. Love to try it. So, you know, what do you guys think?
See, to me, that sounds ridiculously delicious. In my craft beer experience, I don't do a lot of research of beer outside of going and drinking beers and stuff. So
That's what I get paid for on the show, Josh. You're not supposed to be doing that.
Exactly. So, you know, I mean, you guys obviously do a lot more digging into all these different beer types than I do. I don't really know a lot of styles of beer that exist that I haven't personally tried, just because that's how I learn new styles of beers. I see it on a menu and I try it. It's not like I'm sitting there reading these brewing books and these beer books about how like the history of these certain things and knowing like, oh, well, I want to really try that thing someday. So unfortunately, I don't really have one, although that one that you said that the name is sounds like I should say Gesundheit to you afterwards.
Gottslandriga, Gesundheit.
With the smoked wheat, that sounds fucking amazing to me because yeah, I mean that sounds great. I can't really think of one off the top of my head.
It's a smoky ale brewed with juniper. I just wanted to correct myself on that. It's a smoky
Fuck
ale
me
brewed
sideways.
with juniper.
I need that now. Okay, yeah, Gottslandica, or whatever it is.
Who's doing it? Gottslandrica.
Gottslandrica. Yeah, I need that in my life.
It's similar to a Finnish Sahti, which is a wild wheat beer that is filtered through juniper branches.
I learn a lot about beer on this podcast. Like I feel like I'm learning more than the viewers half the time.
I'm sure at this point in time, people have already clicked off and gone to a cooler podcast like the beer.
Like, holy nerd.
But yeah, I mean that sounds absolutely amazing to me. But there's not like a style that I have in my head where I'm like, I've always wanted to try that, just because for me and my brewing experience and my beer experience, it's been more about tasting it and like what's going to taste good to bring to the public in the bar and stuff. It hasn't been about like, what's this random ass beer that I found in the back of a brewer's notebook that I've never had a chance to try yet.
I'll send you some books.
All right. I'll keep them in the van for when I don't have cell service someday, and I'll just sit there and read about beer, watching the leaves change in the Appalachians or something while I'm fucking making my bougie ass lever actuated espresso coffee.
Drinking coffee out of your fucking coffee pipe.
Yep.
For me, okay, so 3 parts to this next thing. I want you guys to think about this real quick while I answer the question and then tell you that I am actually pleasantly surprised by the citywide pills from Four Hands.
All right.
Cool.
Not a flavor profile that I was expecting, but certainly enjoyable.
Talk us through it.
Man, that's just good. I get a little bit of red apple skin, very malty.
Cool. How's the bitterness level? Is it more barely perceptible?
Yeah, barely perceptible. So the question I'll ask before I answer your question, CJ, is one of our Twitch followers, and yes, if you're watching and listening to this, we do now do live casting of our episodes on Twitch every Thursday, although I know it's Sunday right now.
Yeah, this week was off.
There's a lot of fucking weird things going on. But we do live broadcast on Twitch, but the episodes will still be released every Thursday like normal. And one of our Twitch followers, my buddy Zero, wants to know, how much would you say the type of glass changes the taste of a beer? Now, before you answer, let me answer the style question that you had asked, CJ. And because it's a style that we probably don't get a whole lot of here, and it can only be made in one region in certain type of establishments, and that's, I'd want to see more Trappist beers.
Well, I think there's only 8 Abbeys left, so
yeah, I know.
Yeah, so good luck with that.
You could maybe ask them to up their production a little bit.
There is apparently a Trappist brewery now in the States that has been given permission to call their beers Trappist because they've learned the processes from the Trappist monks in Belgium. And
interesting.
I forget the name of the brewery off the top of my head, but I understand now that because I guess they got some sort of paperwork or whatever from whatever Catholic church that were just like, yeah, we'll let you do this in America because you learned how to do it from the people that have been doing it for however many hundred or thousands of years.
Kind of like how Japanese whiskey is honorarily Scotch whiskey.
I don't know anything about that, so sure.
I'm also not 100% sure on that. I mean, I know that it's related to, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
Well, essentially, there was a thing a while back, and whoever the people are who, determine what whiskeys can be called what, where there were certain distilleries in Japan who have been doing the single malt thing for so. I mean, we all know the Japanese, they dedicate themselves to that one fucking thing that they do, and there's been certain distilleries who have achieved a certain level where because Scotch whiskey has to be there's certain aspects of it that have to be done in Scotland, but these whiskeys rival those ancient fucking 1,000-year-old Scotch whiskeys so well that they're like, well, if you want to throw Scotch on your label, you can. Most of them didn't, and they ended up just still being like, nah, fuck that, we're Japanese whiskey.
Most of them I know them as Japanese whiskeys.
There
even
was
though they're comparable to Scotches.
Yeah, they basically achieved that same esteem where they were like, well, yeah, you guys fucking earned that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's and they definitely did in terms of some of those whiskeys are just fucking exceptional.
Right. But the glassware question.
Yeah. Back to the glassware question. Because I know that
thoughts.
Because I know, like, even in the Cicerone program that I'm going through right now, like, they do give you a style guideline of what beer should be served in what glass for
absolutely
carbonation reasons, for aromatic reasons.
Yeah,
and
that was kind of my answer. Like
off the top of my head,
I personally don't think, because the question was, does the glassware affect the flavor? Which to me, the answer to that question is actually kind of a no. Now, does the glassware affect the experience? Yes.
Well put.
So,
I was going to say the same thing.
You're going to get, depending on the glassware that you pour it in, based on how the beer's been carbonated and all these other certain factors of how the beer was made, you might get more head retention on a certain beer in a certain glass. You might get more aromatics out of it because there's certain glasses, same thing with wine, that are designed to funnel those aromatics up. So if it's a beer that's supposed to have an aromatic experience and you have it in a glass that has that kind of funnel upward shape, you're going to get more of that aromatic out of it. There's certain glasses that are designed to enhance the carbonation if a beer is supposed to have a thicker head, and because of those ridges in the glass, it'll keep the carbonation going, it'll keep that head for longer, and those are all part of that experience of tasting and enjoying a beer.
Which marginally affect the flavor of the beer.
I
would say that it changes it, but like.
So let me round out, because Josh and I were really on the same level there of verbiage, but let me take that one step further. It will, yes, it can affect flavor. It doesn't change what went into that beer, right? It doesn't change the overall impact of what that beer could or won't be. But if the experience changes, then yes, based upon both how we know aromatics and your palate work with your brain, yes, absolutely. A different drinking experience can promote different flavors, but all those flavors are still in the beer, right? And I mean, right. The beer came as a package, right? How you experience it is going to affect how you feel like it tasted and how much you enjoyed it and things like that. At home, I drink a lot of beers out of mason jars. Okay. So, sometimes it's not, it's neither here nor there, but when at the brewery, we serve beers and tulips. We serve, I think, let me go out on a limb and say this, even though I know we can't get away with it in a lot of breweries. I think the fucking shaker pint is the worst fucking thing to ever happen to beer in the whole history of fucking beer glassware. Sorry, Josh. I apologize about that. I'm really sorry about that.
No worries. I totally agree. It's such a basic.
If I'm not drinking out of a mason jar, I drink out of a tulip. But it, again, it's not to say you can't have a good beer in a shitty glass. You can. Okay, but that beer will be better in a great glass. And like Josh was saying, there are, just like in wine.
I think it's the experience of the beer will be better. I mean, it's the same thing that comes out of food service. If you're a chef, we eat with our eyes before we even ever taste the food. We eat with our nose. You get the smells of the food coming to you. That will affect what your input is when you put it in your mouth. If you see a beautifully plated steak versus something that looks like a piece of shit, the one that looks like a piece of shit could be the exact same thing, just plated differently.
It tastes better.
But it will change your opinion going into it. Yeah.
Someone could serve you a steak on a white plate with fucking greens and a side of mashers, and then throw it on the plate. But if someone were to come out to you with like a wooden carving board with the steak on it, with your sides in a different dish, and put everything down in front of you, you're going to be like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Like, it actually just made me start thinking, I'd be really curious. I don't know a good way to do this, but if you could have like a vessel of some sort that you could put around different glasses that they would all fit into it. So almost like a blind taste test, but you knew the same beer went into each one, but you end up holding the same thing, but the glass inside is shaped differently. I'd be really curious to see how much it actually affected the flavor of the beer versus how much it affects that initial experience of the smell and the visual and all those different little things.
Well, and from what I've seen and gathered, that most breweries, like you said, CJ, go with the shaker pint.
Yep.
You know,
It's
That's what we
cheap
serve
and
at
it's
J-Dub.
stackable. It's
Cheap
stackable.
and stackable.
Yep.
Sure.
I know Bevel
Breweries
Brewing
around
here.
here that I'm sorry, Josh. I just want to get
Oh, yeah.
this thought out before I forget it. There are breweries around here that will serve different beers in different style glasses, but I think KBC probably does the most for their beer and their glassware, because they have several different types of glassware. You know, they've got the flute,
As is the lager tradition, right? As
right,
is the
and they've got
lager
the flute for
tradition.
their pilsners. They've got the mug for their lagers and things. They've got the shaker pints for their IPAs and stuff, and and their tulips for their bigger beers. You know, like I know Bonsai and Backslope and a few others around here, you know, they carry tulips and they carry modified tulips, or they have some type of like belled glass of some sort. But KBC really does a good job with matching glassware to the style of beer that
I would say to this person, to Zero, that like for me, coming from a brewery standpoint, like we were just talking about, that there's a couple of pieces of glassware that if your brewery is serving these types of beers, they are very appropriate to have. And yes, they do enhance the experience and the flavor of that beer, even if it's just the visual beauty of it. A true Pilsner glass, if you're making Pilsners, true Pilsner glass, yeah, I'd rather have a Pilsner glass of a flute than I would out of a fucking shaker pint. Amen.
Yeah.
If you are going so deep as to say you're making Martzens and Vienna lagers, a dimpled stein is a wonderful thing, or excuse me, a dimpled glass mug is a wonderful thing to have.
Yep.
I think that any brewery worth their salt that is making aromatic beers with hops, some form of a tulip or hipped glass is very important. It does promote aromatics. You know, again, they don't serve you a Pinot Noir in that shaped glass for not for without a reason. It directs aromatic, it collects the oil.
Might as well just pour it in a fucking rocks glass if it
exactly.
didn't matter.
So or a fucking mason jar if you're a complete scumbag.
Yeah.
Well, I love wine in a mason jar, actually. That's one of my favorite fucking things in the world. Mason jar, camping by the fire with some
beer.
wine.
But a mason jar is a modified pint. It's a hipped glass.
Yeah.
It but okay, so you should have, and if you want to drink aromatic beers at home, I think some sort of even just a cheap tulip. I mean, I'm drinking out of my certified Final Gravity tulip right now, but I love this bad boy, and smells delicious, you know. And
well, I mean, I think it's interesting. I like another thing to consider with that is depending on where you're going, right? Like if you go to that brewery that has those 7 IPAs on tap and the 5, you know, fucking pale ales and like 1 lager, like, yeah, you know, your shaker pint is going to do them just fine. That's not what they're there for. But you go to a brewery like Bevel Brewing here in Bend, or Wayfinder up in Portland, who I know we've talked about a lot, who specialize in like their lagers, or Bevel is just like a really niche craft. They like to do what they do well. They specifically choose their glassware based on what you're ordering. The same thing if you go to a bar like where I work at J-Dub, we serve all our beers in shaker pints, largely because we also make a shitload of cocktails, so we need a shitload of shaker pints so we can shake cocktails in those pints. And it's way easier to just have a bunch of shaker pints to do it all with, instead of having our shaker pints for our cocktails and then specific glasses for whatever beers we have rotating on tap. So like it's kind of one of those pick and choose your battle things. And like that brewery that only does IPAs, it's not really going to matter that they're only serving in shaker pints. But the brewery that's like that real specialty craft brewery, they're going to put it in the right glass for the beer.
And 6 1/2 dozen the other way, I would say from the brewery perspective that if you're not necessarily putting some beer in a good glass, I don't know if you're making any good beer. So to this question, does it affect the flavor? I guess we've all agreed, yes, it can. It can affect it in such a minutia that most people don't really want to.
But if you want
to dig into your beer, and you want to really enjoy a nice beer,
And the experience of the beer, like
Chimay should
Find
be
the glass.
Chimay beer should be poured into a schooner glass. It should be poured into a wide bubble bowl. There's a reason for that. Again, on a blind tasting, is the average person going to see differences other than the feel of the glassware? Maybe, maybe not. But yes, does something happen when the proper beer is in the proper glass? I won't take that away from this craft. Absolutely.
No way. Yeah, 100%. So real quick before we move on, the two last beers that I have from Teresa that she brought me are a Second Shift Brewing. It's called Sunny Cat.
Those guys are dope. Holler out to Second Shift Brewing, dude. Those
where's
guys are
Second
awesome.
Shift out of?
It's all out of St. Louis.
Okay, all right. I don't know St. Louis beers very well, so
Those guys are fucking wild, bro. Those guys are wild.
So check this out. The Sunny Cat is a New England style pale ale brewed with oats, lactose, amarillo, and citra hops, and dried tangerine peels. Brewed in honor and in memory of our sweet sunshine. May this bright beer bring its I don't know. It's really hard to read. It's white lettering on a yellow background.
I like that I just said those guys are dope, and they're one ingredient away from a dumpster fire, in my opinion. Oats, lactose.
let's add all these things into it. Let's just keep the list going.
Just make the fucking IPA, but I'm sure it's going to be delicious. Actually, I've on occasion had a couple second shift brewing beers, and they are always really, really, really a great ride of flavor. So I wish you luck with that one. But to me, that feels
I'll get there in a minute.
ingredient away from a dumpster fire.
And the last one that I have is Rockwell Beer Company called Passing Clouds, a Belgian-style wheat beer brewed with spices. And the description.
Passing Clouds sounds like the most appropriate term for farting. That sounds like at a British dinner table being just about as polite as you can be.
Oh, sorry, sir. I must step out for a moment to pass some clouds.
Fluffy, orange, and refreshing, not unlike some of my farts. Don't want to know. It even tells you the style of beer glass that it should be in, and how you should serve it.
What style of beer glass?
Looks like a modified shaker. So it kind of bevels out and then curves back up in at the top.
Oh, okay. Those are beautiful glasses. I like those.
Yeah. I actually really love when a bottle has the recommended glass on it.
Do you?
I think it's super cool. Just like if they take that time and detail to like put on the bottle, like, hey, this is the glass we recommend pouring this into.
Even as someone who was the black sheep just a minute ago was like, oh, glassware doesn't fucking matter. But
well, like, no, I didn't say it doesn't matter. It changes the experience. I'd be curious if you could find a way to blind you to the glassware, right? Like,
sure.
If I could find a way to like make a mold that I could fit all these different glasses into and tell you this is all the same beer, see if you can guess which glass it is. I'd be curious to see how much of a difference in flavor it actually makes, but it changes the experience, when you're having that experience, it'll change everything about what you're doing with the tasting. So I'd be curious to that. But I do appreciate when a brewery makes those little nuanced details, like, porters, they put on theirs, serve between 50 and 55 degrees, right? Absolutely. They're like, don't fucking serve this shit cold, serve it at the right fucking temperature. Well, and I appreciate when a brewery takes that time to do that.
That's someone that's taking their craft seriously.
Here from Rockwell, it even says to serve it at 52 degrees.
Perfect.
So yeah, taking the time to add those little nuancy things so that you drink the beer in the way it's intended to be drank is followed through. Because everyone usually just goes to the fridge, they grab a beer, they crack it open, they don't even bother looking at the label. You know what I mean? But maybe the beer you're drinking is not meant to be drank at 42 degrees or 36 degrees. Maybe it's meant to be drank at 48 or 50 or 52 or 55. Because it's all going to play out flavor at that point.
All these microcosms on the labeling, the topics, right? That jumps back to the whole issue of the episode, which is that education perspective around beer. Of taking so much pride in your beverage that you say, no, hold up, guys. This is actually, you'll enjoy it more like this.
Yeah.
This is how it's supposed to be. And that's something that craft beer is slowly reclaiming.
I think it's something that they've battled with since craft beer started. Like one of my favorite anecdotes from one of my old regulars at J-Dub, like someone who's lived in Bend for, her entire life, and she's well retired at this point. When Deschutes Brewery first opened, she was sitting down at the bar, and it's Deschutes Brewery. They're first opening in like the 1990s, and they only have their own beers. And someone walks in and was looking at the menu and the beer list, and I was like, well, don't you guys have any real beers like a Budweiser or a Coors or something? And, that's what was considered real beer. But because it was such a basic serve cold as fuck, no flavor beer, that's what we were used to for so long. And even since the 1990s, craft beer has been battling like, okay, let's educate people on what beer can be and is and has been.
Right. And that's why we're here doing this thing. Like, we're trying to like educate those that listen about, how it used to be, how it is, not necessarily how it should be, but how we kind of each individually want it to be in our own heads.
Well, and again, the IPA was early craft brewing's answer to the American light lager, and early craft brewing's answer to the streamlined Model T Ford version of what modern beer making was. It was, well, we could do this too, and it tastes better and it's more flavorful. But in that classic Americanism, what we lost was that idea of that nuance.
Cheaper, and it sells for more money.
Yeah, exactly. And so we still to this day, we fight these trends and try to tell people like, yeah, you can like that, but try this. This could be really cool. I'm not
saying that I don't want you to like what you like, but I want you to try this too.
Yeah. And again, that's hard because in a globalized market, no matter what you make or what you do, you have to appeal to people, you have to stay relevant, and you have to make money. And so you have to pick and choose battles. But in terms of keeping old school styles alive, and in terms of celebrating old school styles, it's going to require small local craft breweries to take that charge head on and say, like, you know what? No, I don't want the mild to die. I can't turn my brewery into an all cask ale brewery, nor would I want to, but I don't want the mild to die. So I'm going to make a mild, and I'm going to put it down in front of my people who are like, yeah, I'm like a couple steps left of a non-hoppy pale ale, and be like, fucking try this. It's going to take those people like Scratch Brewing or like Fonta Flora who say like, hey, foraged ingredient saisons, those have been around forever. Try this dandelion beer we made. It's really important that there's those people out there, harping, and I'll go back and even give a shout out again to the homebrewers, even in this community. Thomas, you being one of them. It's really important that we have those people out there that are like, you know what? I take really a lot of pride in making a Hefeweizen. My buddy Mark, a lot of pride in making a good Kolsch. Thomas, you got a pretty decent one up your belt too. It takes those people saying like, you know what? I'm going to stand on this rock and say, this is good. This is really good. And we have to do that. And we have to do it in a local way. We have to bring it back to the community. You have to listen to your community and listen to what they want. Right. But everyone can, again, we've got out here in the Flat Valley, we got a pretty solid lager brewery. So I'm gonna focus on barrels and Belgians, right? We got a pretty,
hope that lager brewery hires me to fucking sling beers for him.
Well, that'd be sick. I think we all hope that too. I think we all hope that too.
I'll find out by the end of this coming week.
Again, to all of our fans, thank you, and to all brewers out there. Again, the last point I really want to make on the show is just try shit, man. Save these styles. Save these fucking styles. We like drinking.
Seriously, someone make that smoked wheat thing and send us some, because goddamn, I want to try that.
If there's anyone who's making a Goslander, could you please send us beer? We'll pay you. Josh and I make shitloads of money.
I will pay for that shit for sure.
Maybe that's what I'll make. I bet I can't smoke my own fucking wheat in house. So
we know you're good at smoking other things, Thomas, but that might be a hard one.
Yeah, you know what? I've actually cut back on my smoking. Thank you very much.
Hey, congratulations. Good for you, man.
I smoke like once a week now.
Why? Maybe. I'm going to start smoking more. Shit, I'm going to start injecting pure fucking resin in my veins.
I don't like the way it makes me feel anymore. something.
That's fair. That's
Yeah,
fair.
that's fair.
But
My,
not,
my
not,
brother.
like, psychologically, like it's not the anxiety or the paranoia. It's like I don't like the way I physically feel.
No, I mean, my brother stopped smoking probably like almost a year ago, if not more than that, just because he kind of started to deal with his anxiety and then it wasn't helping anymore and he stopped. And now he's like way fucking better on his anxiety. And I mean, it's to each their own. I'm probably going to go eat an edible after this though. Cause
I mean, good on you guys. I mean, I'm also older than both of you, and I have been smoking weed for the better part of like 23 years.
I only smoke or eat edibles maybe like once or twice a month, if that. But tonight's
Josh isn't even 23 years old.
Wait a minute. Your math is off there,
I've been
God.
smoking weed almost as long as Josh has been alive, okay?
Humble brag.
Humble brag. But real quick, this second shift tastes like lemon kitchen cleaner.
Oh, bummer. Not in a good way, it doesn't sound like.
I mean, it probably would be better if it were colder. These beers have been upstairs in my room for a little while now, but it's like the first thing that I just get punched right in the fucking back.
Anything described as a cleaner doesn't
like
sound
lemon
good.
pine sol.
Oh,
Like,
no.
I mean,
so much for all that oats and lactose.
yeah, it's like lemon Clorox fucking kitchen and bathroom scrub.
Well,
I love you second shift, and I really hope that there's better stuff on your menu than this, and I can't wait to actually try it when I'm in St. Louis in August. And please don't blacklist me from coming into your brewery.
But you won't be having this beer.
But I won't be drinking the Sunny Cat. I will get to the passing clouds.
Farts.
Yeah. Farting in the sunshine. I'll get to that after this show is over, but I will give a big shout out to Four Hands Brewing. The American Pilsner is pretty damn good.
Dope.
Pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Well, and shout out to Porter Brewing Company, which seems like Josh has really enjoyed those beers. And I'm
Favorite
very
brewing
excited.
company in Oregon.
I would love to do a cask
right
ale show right now. So let's figure out what we can do to do that.
Shout out to our patrons.
We'll see what we can make.
Shout out to our Twitch followers. Shout out Backslope, Kalispell Brewing, and Bonsai Brewing, who we all talked about tonight.
all the places that make awesome beer, and all those places
Honestly,
who are experimenting with bringing the old shit back.
All the breweries in the valley, I'll always give that shout out to everyone, and to all the home brewers and to all the other small breweries across the country. Keep pushing. I just want to see better beer for everybody.
100%. Josh, tell the people where they can find you.
Find me at project.enjoyeveryday if you want to check out my dope-ass merchandise that encourages you to enjoy every day and gives back to good causes protecting our environment. If you want to find local stoked-out updates, find me at Josh Reports to find your local on the snow and or on the stoke updates, depending on the day and depending on what fun thing I'm doing. And if you want to see some dope-ass photography, I'm the Viking Peaches. That's where I live. That's what I do on most Instagram accounts. And, that's it.
CJ... Never mind.
Don't find me. Don't find me. I'll find you. Listen, if I want to, I'll find you.
You can find me on the Instagrams and the things at cousin_T. You can find this podcast and our other bullshit at final.gravity.podcast. If you want to help support this podcast, go to patreon.com/finalgravitypod. However, or no, not however, but on that note, I think we're going to wrap this shit show up, and we will catch you guys next go around.
I'm not a crook.
Oh, by the way, shout out to the Fuck Off and Dies for this dope ass intro and outro music. Thank you guys.
What the fuck, man? So you're telling me all that beer that we had, we drink it.
Afraid so.
We fucking drink it all.
Yeah.